On this episode of Region Talk, we feature the 2018 UWI Cave Hill Campus Council meeting, which was held on Friday, March 9, 2018, at the UWI Cave Hill campus in Barbados. The meeting featured the presentation of the Principal's Report delivered by Professor Udine Barito. The meeting also featured comments by the UWI Vice-Chancellor, Professor Sir Hilary Beckles, and was chaired by Sir Paul Altman, Chairman of the UWI Cave Hill Campus Council.
Vice-Chancellor Sir Hilary Beckles, distinguished representatives of government, fellow Principal Dr. Luce Longsworth, Pro-Vice-Chancellors Professors Dale Weber and Professor Alan Cobley, members of council, especially our student representatives, viewers over the web, good morning and welcome. It is belated, but I want to wish all the women of the Caribbean a joyous International Women's Day, which was just yesterday, and just because I'm late, to wish us all a joyous International Women's Week. Chair, last year, while we celebrated your well-deserved knighthood, we thanked Sir George Aline for his distinguished service to the institution and welcome our sixth Chancellor, Mr. Robert Bermudez. We also welcome our brand new Faculty of Sport and its Dean, Dr. Ashkai Mansingh. The Cave Hill Campus Chair congratulates the University of the West Indies on the celebration of its 70th year as the premier educational institution in the Commonwealth Caribbean. Under the leadership of Dr. Henderson Carter, the Cave Hill campus has started a year-long observation of a calendar of events with an interfaith service on January 28th at St. Patrick's Cathedral, and we have a very exciting gala on April 28th. Chair, since its founding in 1948, the UWI has kept faith with Caribbean people. The UWI has been at the rendezvous of every Caribbean victory and defeat. Through its teaching, research, intellectual leadership, and public service, the UWI has been at the forefront of the search for solutions for Caribbean challenges, and this has been continuous, and we have been doing so consistently for the well-being of Caribbean countries and peoples for 70 years. The University of the West Indies has been there, is there, and will be in the region indefinitely. There is no Anglophone Caribbean country which has not been positively impacted by the University of the West Indies, none. And in which the UWI does not continue to make its mark. Perhaps Chair CARICOM should be invited to bestow upon the University of the West Indies a distinguished honor for 70 years of singular service to the region. Members, I am very pleased to present this year's report to you. The Cave Hill campus is experiencing the first rays of the dawn of our visioning and planning. As I share information on the campus's past year and our projections for the coming years, members of council will appreciate why from the beginning of my tenure, I constantly reminded my colleagues and students that the Cave Hill campus is greater than and would not be defined by its current financial challenges. The work and achievements of my colleagues and students demonstrate that the campus is a constituent pillar of an excellent global university rooted in the Caribbean. Chair, the campus is mapping its recovery, which we are determined to achieve. Since we last met, the campus has moved decisively to operationalize the Smart Campus initiative and to use this harnessing of information technology to expand access, achieve greater alignment with corporate, state, and civic partners, and become even more agile in meeting the needs of our students and our publics. The campus is fully engaged with the implementation of the AAA 2017-2022 strategic plan, and we have prioritized internationalization and the Smart Campus initiative as the key vehicles to deliver the AAA goals. My task this morning is simple. I want to review the work and achievements of the campus in the past year, share the major initiatives of the first phase of the plan, and in the process, indicate the way forward for the Caveville campus. Our achievements are built on our core values of student-centeredness, integrity, gender justice, excellence, and diversity. Our students are the bedrock of our mission, and they know that. Don't care what is happening. They know, Mr. Bridgewater and Mr. Holas, that you have student-centeredness at the Caveville campus. I will highlight what we have done in the past year to advance student-centeredness, improve the learning and leisure environment, grow student enrollment, enhance our financial viability, and remain competitive and relevant. This is a campus on the move. So let us look at some of what we have done. On March 13, 2017, the campus successfully completed the institutional accreditation mid-cycle review conducted by the Barbados Accreditation Council and an international team of reviewers. The review team stated, and I want to share this, that while the campus has faced significant financial challenges arising from the recession, from continuing outstanding payments due from the governments of Barbados, and from the introduction of student fees, it had anticipated some of these changes and is managing them well, as could be expected in difficult circumstances. We are pleased that the review team has found that the campus has demonstrated its fitness for purpose. The team further noted that the university and the campus have the leadership that is well equipped to address the challenges we face. And at this point, I want to thank the Caveville management team in joining me in providing an excellent team of leaders to manage the work of the Caveville campus. The review team went on to commend the campus for the cultural change towards a greater acceptance of professionalism in teaching and learning. They commended the Center for Excellence in Teaching and Learning. They commended the Guide to the Academic Quality Management System and the proactive management university bursa of our financial challenges. The campus is committed to the reviewers' recommendation that we pay greater attention to internal operating processes. And in 2019, we faced international institutional accreditation again. The campus will complete another full accreditation cycle. And chairing the campus's accreditation team is Dr. Janice Badenoch, with Mrs. Gail Hall and Mrs. Deborah Dean as coordinator and deputy coordinator respectively. I'm telling them now that we expect another successful evaluation and passing accreditation with flying colors. Since we earned, to go on to our achievements, since we earned accreditation at the U.S. Department of Education, the campus has been seeking ways to leverage its double accreditation status. And in July 2017, we accepted an invitation from the president of the University of Miami and led a delegation there where we signed an MOU and held very fruitful talks with President Julio Frank and a senior team of his officials while we were there. We took a cross-campus team of senior campus officials, but because of the accreditation from the U.S. Department of Education, as it relates to medical education, in the presentation I'm focusing on this aspect of it. In the MOU, we agreed that we will have medical elective exchanges of medical students and residents as observerships. We would have joint mentorships of trainees. We would develop joint program areas of research on themes, for example, skin biology and burn pathology. And very importantly, we are exploring US-based clinical places for US citizens pursuing, when they come, and we will get them eventually, to pursue the MBBS program here, that they would in fact use the University of Miami. We are discussing that for their clinical years. The second major initiative under expanding access to education through medicine, access to education at Cave Hill, was a visit to the University of Ghana in September 2017, where a 3-person campus delegation participated in a successful Republic Bank trade mission to Ghana. And we were delighted that Republic Bank invited us, because we use it as an opportunity to meet with colleagues from the University of Ghana. And here you see Dean Adams and Dr. Connell and I at the reception organized for the whole trade mission when we just arrived in Ghana. But while we were in Ghana, we held very successful discussions with Ghanaian government ministers, the Vice Chancellor of the University of Ghana, Professor Ebenezer Owusu, and senior colleagues at the University of Ghana. We put forward a proposal to them that we could deliver the preclinical education component in medicine and the degree program at the University of Ghana. Their equivalent of the MBBS is 6 years long. They have 3 years preclinical and 3 years clinical. And our proposal to them was that we could do the preclinical at the Cave Hill campus because we have capacity in the preclinical years. Our preclinical program is normally 2.5 years. We will add a 6-month to that. They will graduate with a full degree that will in fact be articulated with their program. The Minister of Health that we also met with, the Honorable, let me get his name correct, the Honorable Dr. Kweku Ajeman Mensah, was very excited and gave his blessings to the program as the officials at the University of Ghana. He said to me, Professor Barito, Ghana has a population of 28 million. Every year, 7,000 apply to the University of Ghana to do medicine. About 2,000 are eligible. We accept 150 to 200. The government has just built a new teaching hospital. They have more capacity in the clinical years than the preclinical. They currently send students to the Arabian Gulf, to a university called the University of Gulf in Bahrain, to do the preclinical years. And he said, we will do this program with the Cave Hill campus. All you need to have in place is an articulation agreement. And the Vice Chancellor of the University of Ghana echoed this. And we immediately on return appointed an articulation team, and the same is at the University of Ghana. And Chair, I am so happy to report to you that just last week, the Vice Chancellor of the University of Ghana wrote and said he would like to visit the campus with an articulation team, and they want to see our facilities, renew the MOU, and sign off on the articulation agreement. And the University of Ghana is 70 years old, just like the Cave Hill at the University of the West Indies, and we are delighted to host them in early July, and our Vice Chancellor, Sir Hilary Beckles, is going to sign that MOU here. So we are on the move with that articulation program because we have that capacity. The campus is also rolling out a master's in nursing administration. This is to meet the needs of persons who have obtained their nursing qualification some time ago and are desirous of moving to the next level in nursing administration. The MSc in nursing administration will complement the BSc in nursing offered by the Barbados Community College. And persons in Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean, the wider Caribbean, will be eligible to do this. But Mr. Clark, I'm very happy to report that this master's is self-financing. So the campus will earn some money from this. All of the measures that we are seeking to put in place is to bring revenue to the Cave Hill campus. We are building our academic relations with Japanese universities. Remember I told you that we are using internationalization as a vehicle to attain the strategic goals of access, alignment, and agility. In June 2017, I was a guest of the Association for the Promotion of International Cooperation, APIC, in Japan, a visit facilitated by the Japanese Embassy in Barbados. During the visit, I delivered a lecture at Tsuda's Women's University, the oldest women's university in Japan, held talks on prospective faculty and student exchanges with officials of APIC, as well as met and visited with officials and faculty of Sophia and Kyoto universities. And that young lady you see in that picture is actually a KVIL student who was one of the first students to go on the exchanges organized for UWI students to Japan. And while she was there, she was offered a scholarship. And so when I visited, she had just started doing a master's in international business at Sophia University. And in turn, because we are now in the phase of reciprocity, in turn, by September 2017, the KVIL campus hosted 3 very relevant activities by Japanese academics. Here you see on Mr. Mitsuteru Takahashi, an associate professor at the Japanese Digital Hollywood University. He delivered a lecture on anime at the Errol Barrow Center for Creative Imagination, and by mid-September, the Center for Environmental Studies and Resource Management, CERMES, hosted 2 workshops by colleagues from Sophia University on the issues of sustainable development, climate change, and environmental challenges. And one of the workshops was actually happening on the day one of the storms that would be devastating in the northeastern Caribbean. I turn now, Chair, to the expansion of programs at the Confucius Institute. The Confucius Institute at KVIL is central to our internationalization agenda. The extensive work program of the Confucius Institute underscore the vital contributions the campus is making to expanding access, earning revenue, and meeting higher education resource needs in Barbados and the Caribbean. And here I just summarize the areas of the contributions they are making, but I will highlight each one. As it relates to the CSEC curriculum development, the Institute at KVIL, with the support of Handban, has been assisting the Caribbean Examination Council with the development of curriculum for secondary school certificate in Chinese. It is expected that CXC will launch that curriculum for delivery to all Caribbean secondary schools by September 2018. This collaboration can assist in offering Chinese as another standard foreign language throughout the region. But the KVIL campus will not leave ministries of education throughout the region hanging, that the students can do CXC Mandarin, who will teach them. The KVIL campus is therefore going to introduce, and I know the Dean of the Faculty of Humanities and Education is very much part of this. The Confucius Institute has worked with the Faculty of Humanities and Education to develop and introduce by September this year a minor in Chinese studies. And this will enable teachers and anyone who is interested to come and do these courses. And if they have a degree already, we will allow them to assess the courses as a group of standalone courses for occasional admission. And new students coming in will also be able to take a minor in Chinese studies. We are going to talk with the coordinator of the new office of KVIL online to assist in offering these courses online. So even if you can't make it to the KVIL campus physically, you will have the means of assessing these courses and gaining expertise in Mandarin. The Confucius Institute has also been collaborating with the Ministry of Education to undertake the teaching of 2 24-week-long pilot program in primary and secondary schools for 2 hours per week for a total of 24 weeks. The Confucius Institute at Caveville is also assisting the Media Resource Center to develop Caribbean-specific teaching materials to be used throughout the primary and secondary school system. And we are also willing to make that expertise available outside of Barbados once we get the requests and we can schedule that assistance. And our two dynamic co-directors, Mr. Francois Jackman and Dr. Paul Song, coordinated and accompanied officials from the Ministry of Education, the Caribbean Examination Council, and other Barbadian educational institutions to China in July 2017 to promote understanding and collaboration between China and Barbados. And I really would like you to applaud them for the outstanding work they have done. And of course, we are very proud that our immediate past co-director is now His Excellency Ambassador Francois Jackman, our man in Beijing. The work continues. This table shows that in 2017, the Confucius Institute at Caveville, only in 2017, taught a total of 1,307 persons in Chinese language, which included 307 Caveville students. Personnel of the Central Bank of Barbados, the Caribbean Broadcasting Corporation, and primary and secondary school students. They assisted the students who were studying software engineering here at the Caveville campus by developing and teaching a course on Chinese language and culture to students pursuing that very vital degree, the BSc in software engineering, mobile technology, where these students will go to China. Some of them, the first cohort, will go in August. And when they get there, they will be well prepared because they will have done a course that explains Chinese culture to them and also would have given them conversational Mandarin. Of course, they will be taught in English, but the point is the Confucius Institute is also assisting. Since gaining HSK and YCT testing, which is the only, the Confucius Institute at Caveville is the only official testing site in the Eastern Caribbean to certify proficiency in the Chinese language. And since we have gained that proficiency, we have administered 2 series of tests, and a total of 112 students took that test. I'm very pleased to say that the first cohort of students, secondary school students, anywhere in the Caribbean to take this test, in the Eastern Caribbean at least, came from a secondary school called Ellerslie. I've heard about it. And they were the ones to sit that test, and you see the headmaster there. The Confucius Institute assisted in establishing the Joint Caribbean Chinese Legal Research Center. The campus and the China University of Political Science and Law, welcome, Minister, it's always a pleasure to have you. We signed an MOU establishing a joint Caribbean Chinese Law Research Center, the first of the kind in the Caribbean. I don't have to tell you that trade with China is increasingly important, and scholars from China and the region will work together to enhance their knowledge of law in each other's jurisdiction. So soon, trade missions to China from the Caribbean could assess the expertise on understanding the Chinese legislative framework and legal system from our Joint Legal Research Center. And equally, the Chinese scholars who will be part of this will explain Caribbean legal systems to the Chinese wishing to come here and do business. And so we have that at the level of the academics and government officials, but we are not leaving our students hanging either. I won't take too much of Dean Berry's thunder because I know he'll want to speak about this, but we were very pleased to introduce the inaugural Caribbean China International Law Moot Competition. And it was held, the finals was held at the Supreme Court. We had a very distinguished panel of judges, as you see, led by Mr. Justice Sir Martin Gibson, Chief Justice of Barbados, and including the Right Honorable Mr. Justice Winston Anderson of the Caribbean Court of Justice, our very own then Deputy Dean, Dr. Corralita Bob Schaefer, and Justice William Chandler. And here you see a young lady from China presenting. The Chinese students won, they edge us out, but the dean will go into the details of this. But one of the things the judges, we won some, but I'll let him speak to that. But one of the things the judges said is that the students from China presented in fluent English. That was extremely impressive. And so I happily promised them that in 10 years' time, the students from Kayville will present in fluent Chinese. I'm very much aware there will be another principal of the Kayville campus at that time who will have to live up to that expectation. But it was very impressive, and of course we returned this year in June and to do our best, again in English, to retain the cup. Chair, as you can see, the work of the Confucius Institute at Kayville has been outstanding in advancing our internationalization agenda, expanding access to the university, preparing citizens to deal with the changing labor markets, and assisting in strengthening U.S. government relations. And all the institutes and the headquarters recognize that. So at the annual international conference of 500 Confucius Institutes and 1,000 classrooms in Xi'an, China, in December last year, the Kayville Confucius Institute won Institute of the Year award, the youngest institute to ever have done so. And this was presented by Deputy Premier of China, Madame Liu Yandong. We continue. In terms of strengthening the capacity of the English as a second language program to attract more students, the campus streamlined its operations into a center for language learning and located this in the Faculty of Humanities and Education. We needed to do this to assure quality assurance oversight. All academic programs must have quality assurance oversight from a faculty, and to pull on the resources dean in linguistics and literatures and for all the foundation programs. But we are also laying the groundwork for developing full degree programs in the teaching of English as a second language. Of course, cohorts of students continue to be enrolled from the Hispanic Caribbean and wider field. And the latest cohort of 27 Panamanians arrive next week on the 15th of March. However, we are placing emphasis on markets in the Dutch and Francophone Caribbean, not only on English as a second language, but as a welcoming space for university study. The campus has made great strides in teaching English as a second language. And here I just want to pause and point out I'm meeting with an official from the Dutch ministry, a senior communication and policy advisor, and she visited us on February 21st and said they wanted to bring students here to do degrees at the Kayville campus, but they wanted a campus that had a strong support mechanism for students from whom English is not the first language. So they're not coming here to do English as a second language. They come in here to do French and accounting and law, but they want that support mechanism because they have also started to do CXC and they have started teaching English within the secondary schools, but the students speak Papiamento and they speak Dutch and they're now speaking English. And I told her you came to the right campus. We are also looking, in terms of growth chair, we are going to develop 2 new degree programs, a BA in teaching English as a second language and a BA in Chinese and Asian Studies. The University of the West Indies is 70 years old. The Kayville campus is 55 years old. We have the expertise in pedagogy on how to teach, and we have the expertise on the teaching of English. And we are going to create a full degree program. So people will come for immersion, but they will come and do degrees. We will train the trainers in the teaching of English as a second language and a BA in Chinese and Asian Studies, because we have to move from the minor straight up to the full degree. China is too important in the world to ignore providing our citizens with a clear understanding. The development of the Agro-Business Science Park continues under the dynamic leadership of Professor Leonard Ogaro. We have obtained, attained, received town and country planning for the approval of the development of the Agro-Business Science Park at Duke St. Thomas. And we have resubmitted successfully to town and country planning the minor changes that they wanted us to achieve. The campus is ready to turn sod at Duke's. The project is financed by the People's Republic of China as part of a bilateral agreement with the government of Barbados, and we are being funded under a project with the Ministry of Education, the HOPE project. So we are not waiting. We are waiting on the ministry, but we are not waiting in CFSE. So as you can see there, the director has continued his innovative work, the center, and it has recently launched its latest catalog of shoes made from the black belly sheep. And ladies, I think you'll see from some of those, some may have your name on them. I think for me, I can see. We continue with the renewal of the Faculty of Science and Technology. Again, when we last met, we were looking for funding for the pre-feasibility study. I'm happy to report that the Caribbean Development Bank has provided us with the funds for the pre-feasibility study. We have just completed the tender phase. We have selected a company to complete that feasibility study and produce that design brief. And we are in some little negotiations to massage the amount that they want, but it is the best bid. And I hope by next year, when I report next year, that I can tell you how advanced we are, because we need that Faculty of Science and Technology to be fully within the 21st century. And I should say that we have had expressions of interest from 2 potential funders, but we are talking quietly, and by this time next year, we should be able to say more. The institutional accreditation team asked us to pay attention to internal operating processes, and Chair, we have been doing so. We need to do that because we have to meet the expectations of our students. And in that regard, we have introduced, besides the Center for English Language Learning, which was repurposing positions introduced with no new expenditure on human resources, we established CERU, the Student Enrollment and Retention Unit, under the leadership of Mrs. Patricia Atherley. This is a one-stop shop that facilitates student experiences of their campus, from the expression of the very first interest to enrollment through to graduation. The unit incorporates international recruitment and has been placing a lot of emphasis on penetrating new markets as well as enhancing our presence in traditional and existing markets. And I look forward to the impact of CERU's work on enrollment from local through to regional and international. And I want to thank Mr. Rommel Carter, our acting campus registrar, for the brilliant idea to streamline these functions into a dedicated office with no additional HR costs. Towards enhancing the innovation and research and innovation profile of our faculty and graduate students, we have the shared mission of Professor Dale Weber, PVC for Graduate Studies and Research. This is common. He wants to enhance that. We want to enhance that. The campus with PVC Weber established CORI, the Cavell Office of Research and Innovation. And we have appointed and congratulate Professor Eddie Ventos as its first director, which is a transition from his former post as campus coordinator. Professor Ventos, with CORI coming on stream, we know we have to find 2 positions to put in the office. We expect regular and routinized campus research days, the attraction of major research grants, the award of more patents, and the creation of commercial and entrepreneurial ventures. The campus, towards improving communication and governance, the campus holds annual town hall meetings where we have full and frank exchanges of ideas, information, and suggestions between senior management and the entire campus community. At last year's town hall meeting, Campus Coordinator for Strategic Planning, Dr. Justin Robinson, rolled out the AAA strategic plan to everyone. And we also had the introduction of Pulse Points by Campus Quality Assurance Officer, Mrs. Coel Boyce. And this is an employee recognition program. The first staff member to win was Siobhan Demondika, Mrs. Demondika, and she won the Principal's Challenge. As it relates to the Smart Campus Initiative, which, as you know, advances the modernization of the campus, builds human resource development to meet changing labor market needs. There are several innovations that we group under this initiative. TouchNet, the bursary, under the leadership of our bursar, Ms. Lisa Aline, implemented procedures for online payment for conferences and seminars through TouchNet Marketplace program. This enables persons to pay online. Long overdue, and because prior to this, payments were paper-based and time-consuming. And these are some of the areas we want to move with in the Smart Campus Initiative. Also part of the renewable energy strategy, and under the leadership of our bursar who chairs that committee, we have introduced a pilot project that automatically switches off lights and air conditioning systems across the campus once the rooms become unoccupied. This is the room you're in. It is nighttime. Persons are working late. Once they leave, the light should go off. One of the first contributions to the Smart Campus Task Force, chaired by Coordinator Mr. David Marshall, is a comprehensive mapping of the relationships and interconnections of all departments and services that work together to generate services needed by our students. The student life cycle helps faculties and departments to recognize their work as pivotal, especially when we place students at the center. The life cycle focuses on discovery, prospect, admission, orientation, involvement, and graduation. And at that point, we anticipate very satisfied and generous alumni. The Registrar's Office at the Smart Campus Task Force are working together with the AAs, who are the nerve centers within faculties, to inculcate the integrative approach and break down silos. Again, working with Mrs. Bridget Collins, the UWI's CIO, the campus IT services have adopted Microsoft Office 365, a common information platform that is integrative and more responsive and would help us to improve efficiency and effectiveness in delivering services to students. And this will be fully rolled out in June this year. Chair, I want to pause and just give us a little statistical profile of our students on the campus. That table there depicts enrollment trends for the past 10 years. Enrollment declined in all 5 faculties with the exception of medical sciences, which was just coming on stream 10 years ago. However, with the introduction of tuition fees in the academic year 2014-2015, enrollment declined by 20.5% in that year. And by last academic year, the enrollment of 5,171 represented a 40% decline in enrollment compared to 2013-14. Figure 1 reveals that while women continue to outnumber men, it was in fact, and you see the information there, it was in fact proportionately more women who dropped out or postponed a university education after tuition fees were introduced. Overall, enrollment stood at 66% female and 34% male. We would like to increase the percentage of male, but at K-ville it is 34% male and 66% female. And as we move on, when you look at the distribution of total on-campus student registration, you see the Faculty of Social Sciences has 54% of all students on the campus, which means that as you can tell, for the others combined, science and technology has the next highest percentage of students, but they all combined come to 46%. This is in the total. When we break it down in terms of undergraduate students, the Faculty of Social Sciences at the undergraduate level has 55%, and you can see the percentages there. And at the graduate level, it shifts somewhat, and social sciences become 44%, and humanities and education increase their quota of the graduate population to 25%. When we look at the age range, you will see that our undergraduate students are very young. 24 and under are 70%, 25 to 34 are 18%, giving us a total of 88% of our students under 34 years. So 88%. Of course, at the graduate level, it would emerge differently, so that at the graduate level, 25 to 30, in the 25 to 34 age cohort, 42% fall within there, and 35 to 44 age cohort is 25%. When we look at the distribution by country of origin for undergraduate students, Barbadians are 74% of the population. When we go to the graduate population, Barbadians are 70% of the population, which means that 30% of the postgraduate population is made up of regional, extra-regional students. So that's a 70-30 ratio. Last year, we graduated 1,581 students, of whom 361 were graduate students, with 14 receiving PhD degrees. We graduated 1,220 students with undergraduate degrees, and this included 119 who had gained first-class honors. Now, even though there was discussion that the introduction of tuition fees would heighten students wanting to complete on time, the data prepared by Mrs. Gail Carter-Payne does not bear this out. This is the data on throughput rates. As you can see, 3 faculties have shown marginally lower throughput since the introduction of tuition fees, while law and humanities and education show marginal improvement. But this bears further analysis. So this is, think about it, and we need to take a closer look at as to why it happened. Our honorary graduates were 3 outstanding Caribbean world leaders. And here you have our Barbadian surgeon, Dame Selma Jackman, followed by Ms. Kay Foster, a Barbadian transnational corporate leader in the United States, and Professor Iran Rensburg, Vice Chancellor of the University of Johannesburg. Chair, as it relates to our students' achievements, Kay will continue to exemplify UWI's tradition of excellence. Last year's scholarship winners met their donors at the annual Student Awards Gala. For the students who earn honors in every class of degree offered, we hosted the Principal's Evening of Celebrating Scholarly Excellence, and this was for students who got first-class degrees at the undergraduate, distinction at the master's, and high commendation at the PhD level. Student Mr. Theo Taylor, under the supervision of Janak Soda, head of Department of Computer Science, Mathematics, and Physics, developed 2 apps, one for the UWI game and one for the 70th anniversary celebration. And we haven't even yet graduated a student with the BSc in software engineering, yet we have students developing apps. The students of the Errol Barrow Center for Creative Imagination won a number of awards at the National Festival of Creative Arts in categories for film and dance. Last year, we hosted the largest, my apologies, because I like this young man, Mr. Jonathan Allen. He runs for me in the races, so I don't have to look like I'm beating other persons. But last year, Mr. Allen won a 6-week scholarship attachment to Buckingham Palace and Windsor Castle, and also graduated with first-class honors in the BSc in Hospitality and Tourism degree. And last year, we hosted the largest ever UWI Games. And Principal Longsworth, we were very pleased to welcome the first contingent from the open campus. Mona avenged their loss here in 2011 by beating Caveville into second place. We thank DP Professor Landis for organizing the games and ensuring that all the athletes had a wonderful time. But my colleagues from Mona, I want you to go back and tell the principal that we are coming back in 2019, and I'm traveling with a suitcase full of golden dresses. Chair, the Caveville student athletes, the Blackbirds, have an indomitable spirit. Many of their recent victories were in last semester. So I will report on these in full detail next year. However, I want to highlight the Blackbirds' latest pursuit, sailing. These young men epitomize the Caveville spirit, which is we are going in. They entered a sailing competition in a boat appropriately titled Oiseau Noir, Blackbird. Chair, we won't detain ourselves with the results. We don't need to go into these piddling details. Let the record show that they completed every event they entered. They actually get an award for the spirit of the competition. But I really like it. So I'm saying to Mrs. Amanda Reefer, head of the Academy of Sport, to raise some funds because we are going for golf next. And I want to tell Mrs. Reefer, our chair is an avid, accomplished golfer, and he will point you to some potential funders for student golfers. We want a Blackbird golfing team in 2019. Because these young men epitomize the Caveville spirit, undaunted, undeterred, unbroken, sailing into every available opportunity and creating some on the way. Chair, the strategic planning exercise is mature and internalized at Caveville. All across the campus, we have identified and are working on our key performance initiatives. So here I want to speak to larger, overarching, but I think necessary developments. Members of Council, even as we maintain an outward reach using internationalization to attract extra-regional students, we must look within, maintain that inward gaze to discover what is exceptional about our global university rooted in the Caribbean. And I ask, what do we bring to the world of knowledge that is unique to the Caribbean? What indigenous sources of knowledge do we have that would make persons leave their respective countries and come to the UWI to study with us? Chair, one of those exceptional contributions to scholarship has been hiding in plain sight. It is our distinctive Caribbean culture. The accretive syntheses of indigenous, African, European, Asian, and Indian influences have created a distinctive, fascinating Caribbean culture. Just take one dimension, Caribbean music. We are the region that has gifted the world with the 20th century indigenous musical form, instrument, the steel pan of Trinidad and Tobago. Chair, our musical genres include but are not limited to calypso, reggae, spooge, mento, zouk, salsa, merengue, ska, cadence, chutney, punta, tuk, soca, and so much more. In dance, in film, in carnivals and festivals, religious belief systems and practices, the fine arts, our cuisine, we live our culture. In our academy, we have dealt with the intellectual contributions of our culture in a somewhat fragmentary manner. The UWI created in 1986 the Center of Creative and Festival Arts at St. Augustine. It is now a department. At Mona in 1987, the UWI created the Institute of Caribbean Studies. Mona 1993, Reggae Studies Unit. Caville 2006, the Errol Barrow Center for Creative Imagination. Caville 2006, also the Cultural Studies Program. The UWI must now recognize the maturity, intellectual marketability, and scholarly weight of cultural studies and map a faculty structure on these centers, institutes, and units. We should create a faculty of Caribbean culture. We have the scholars and artists, the experts and practitioners, but most of all, we have a rich and varied intellectual and experiential fields of study that mark us as unique in the world. We are certain the late Vice Chancellor Emeritus, Professor Rex Nettleford, would approve. Even more critically, the International Academy would take notice of UWI with a faculty of Caribbean culture. Chair, the 2017 swath of hurricanes that devastated the northeastern Caribbean produced many economic, social, and health challenges. They underscore our vulnerabilities, and that could be exacerbated. Coastal erosion, heightened health challenges, bacterial threats, and temperature-related concerns. All of these produce massive dislocation and loss of livelihood. These adversities create both geopolitical and biosecurity concerns. Just last week, we had storm surges and breaches of tidal walls throughout the Caribbean, flooding everywhere in Grenada, in Barbados, in Trinidad and Tobago with mudslides. And the Caville campus, as a constituent element of UWI, is part of the search for solutions. And we are responding at Caville in two ways. The first, we are going to host a one-day symposium that focuses on building resilience to biosecurity threats. And we have an international panel of experts as confirmed keynote speakers. They are Dr. Carissa Etienne, Director of PAHO, who is not only giving the keynote, but who has promised the highest level of technical support for our other initiative. Professor Akin Abiomi, Principal Investigator of Global Emerging Pathogens Treatment Consortium of Universities and Researchers in Ghana, Nigeria, and South Africa. And Professor Rebecca Katz, Co-Director of the Center for Global Health Science and Security, Georgetown University. And I like how the Americans do it, because look at the name of that center. It is the Center for Global Health Sciences, Security, Health, Science, and Security at Georgetown University, and it is in the School of Foreign Service. Our second response is the creation of an interdisciplinary center for biosecurity studies located in the Faculty of Social Sciences, but pulling and integrating the fields of law, medical research, international relations, public health, and it is dedicated to building capacity to deal with the threats arising from biosecurity issues. The center will offer professional training for fee-paying courses in areas such as global biosecurity, treaty and local implications, emerging infectious diseases, and biointelligence. So, and we will make policy available to governments and the private sector. We continue our work on alignment. We have prioritized access, but we are not ignoring building relations and with the corporate sector, government, and civic society, strengthening our ability to serve our student and various publics by exploiting these. Last year, we nurtured a very successful relationship with RBC to introduce the UWI RBC Race for the Kids, which raised $63,000 to support scholarships for students. And we thank the RBC for partnering with us, and we also thank Ms. Sonia Johnson, Dr. Yolan Cook, Mrs. Roseanne Maxwell, and their team for organizing again with RBC another successful race on March 11th, Sunday coming. Come join us. And we are going to raise $125,000. And Red Plastic Bag is our race ambassador, and he is also doing his best to assist us to raise $125,000. Chair, we have many excellent research projects, but the work of the Improve Access to Justice, Impact Justice, is outstanding in its scope and reach. And we want to thank Global Affairs Canada, who provided us with 19.2 million Canadian dollars for this project, which trained over 450 regional probation officers, child protection officers in basic mediation, 400 regional educators. There are a variety of things this project has had undertaken, producing model pieces of legislation, and very critically, including Indigenous Caribbean citizens in access to justice. The European Union awarded the Nita Barrow Unit of the Institute for Gender and Development Studies at Caveville a grant of 400,000 euros for the Liberty Project, which is a 7-country, 4-year project aimed at improving the lives of marginalized communities in Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean. Again, we thank the EU for the confidence in the campus and the Nita Barrow unit, and I can tell you, I know my colleagues in there will deliver. We were very pleased and honored to have Ms. Endelika Mandela, granddaughter of Nelson Mandela, join Professor Iran Rensburg, our own Vice Chancellor, Sir Hilary Beckles, and witnessed by Prime Minister, the Honorable Frundels Choate, join us all on a wonderful evening to declare open the Mandela Freedom Park on March 28th, 2017 last year. Our Vice Chancellor, Professor Sir Hilary Beckles, delivered on June 14th last year the Errol Barrow Center for Creative Imagination 7th Annual George Lamin Distinguished Lecture on Britain's Perfect Crime, Ignore Genocide, Faked Emancipation, Insincere Independence, and No Reparations. And this was in honor of Professor Lamin's 90th birthday. A critical aspect of our engagement with the corporate sector is internships, and we are very pleased that through the excellent work of Mrs. Dale Lynch of the Office of Student Services and her entire team, the campus secured a total of 87 internships and hires for our students, with another 41 short-term attachments. The campus is grateful to all members of the business community who facilitate our students and assist them in gaining that valuable experience and joining the future workforce, and we encourage others to join. Chair, our colleagues continue to excel. Mrs. Amanda Reefer has been awarded Administrator of the Year Award, the 2nd year running by the National Sports Council. Mr. Roland Butcher, head coach at the Academy of Sport, was invited to sit on the Cricket Committee of Cricket West Indies, and we sincerely hope that his input will make a difference. The highly ranked Lancet Diabetes and Endocrinology Journal profiled Professor Alafia Samuels on her work to call attention to the plague of obesity. Dr. Christina Hines, lecturer and political scientist, was appointed co-chair of the Global South Task Force for International Studies Association. Dr. Colin Depredine, Dean, Faculty of Science and Technology, was appointed a member of the UNESCO Barbados Commission, and I accepted an invitation to serve on a board as a board member at the University of Miami Institute for Advanced Studies. Mr. Westman James, Dr. Angela Aline, Mrs. Carla Springer Hunt, Mrs. Halda Davis Woodruff, Mrs. Ariane Franklin, and Natalie Greenwich all won the Principal Award for Excellence, and we celebrate the George Allen Chronic Disease Research Center and Professor Ian Hamilton, who were among the recipients of the Vice Chancellor's Award for Excellence. Chair, at this point, I would like to pause and invite the Deputy Principal, followed by the Deans in this order, to present their report on their stewardship of their respective portfolios. Following the Deputy Principal will be the Dean of the Faculty of Social Sciences, Dr. Justin Robinson, the Dean of the Faculty of Science and Technology, Dr. Colin Depredine, Dean of the Faculty of Law, Dr. David Berry, Dean of the Faculty of Medical Sciences, Dr. Peter Adams, and our newest Dean, Dean of the Faculty of Humanities and Education, Professor Evelyn O'Callaghan. Colleagues, I thank you.
Thank you, Principal. Chair, I'm pleased to report to Council on the departments under the remit of the Deputy Principal's Office, and these are geared towards providing students with the support they need for their holistic development. The Office of the Deputy Principal and the departments are concerned with enhancing the teaching and learning environment, to provide student support services, and to promote health and healthy lifestyles. I wish to highlight just a few of the achievements in terms of student health. The Student Health Clinic, in conjunction with UWITV, which is the University of the West Indies HIV/AIDS Response Project, have undertaken some activities to promote the sexual health of the student body. In collaboration with the Ministry of Health, free HIV and STI testing is offered on the campus 4 times per week. And this service has been quite highly subscribed and has been a great success. I wish to also highlight a new initiative, which is that, again, in collaboration with the Ministry of Health, we are offering free HPV vaccinations. HPV is the human papillomavirus, which is the causative agent of cervical cancer. And the evidence is very strong and growing by the day across the world that HPV vaccination of our young people, both men and women, can prevent cervical cancer and genital warts. So this is a free service. It is offered to anyone, staff and students under the age of 26. And I strongly recommend that persons avail themselves of this major public health initiative, which has the capacity to decrease these cancers. Under the Center for Excellence in Teaching and Learning, the CETL, this is the department which undertakes the delivery of the postgraduate certificate in teaching and learning. And the current total is 138 of our lecturers have received and graduated from the program with a certificate in university teaching and learning. And this is, of course, what was alluded to by the midterm accreditation team, that this is helping to develop a professional cadre of teaching. I also wish to commend CETL for introducing ReadSpeak. This is a text and speech software aid which at one click of a button will read out any text that's contained in a Word or a PDF document. And this is, of course, a learning environment at Cave Hill for persons who might be visually impaired or dyslexic. This thing keeps turning off, or have other reading challenges, and it's quite in keeping with the Smart Campus initiative. In terms of the Office of Student Services, I know that I should be reporting on the year 2016, 17, 15, 16, 16, 17, excuse me, but beyond that academic year, I have to mention it now, the sterling work that they did to help students come to terms with the devastation of the hurricanes that passed through the region. And they're really at the front end of all of this delivery. So the first line of assistance is always psychological counseling. And our psychological counselor and her teams, they offered one-to-one and group counseling sessions to try to help students from the affected countries to cope with the trauma, to help them sleep, concentrate, and be able to maintain their studies while dealing with all of this uncertainty. The Office of Student Services was also instrumental in keeping students afloat with respect to their daily living after, for many of them, their means of support had just been suddenly cut off. And the Student Hardship Fund, it gave 25 grants to students from 11 of the affected countries. I should say that the Cave Hill campus has the largest number of students who were affected by the passage of the hurricanes. And in an amazing piece of foresight, the Office of Student Services had created the so-called Adopt a Student Fund in 2016. The Adopt a Student Fund is fully financed by voluntary contributions from members of staff of the Cave Hill campus. And 11 students who were affected by the hurricanes were assisted through this. And we launched a further appeal to top up the Adopt a Student Fund with an emergency appeal. And this very rapidly garnered over $10,000 in contributions, but also importantly, contributions in kind. So, for example, there are 2 students who have been dislocated in a long-term way, who have been provided with accommodation literally by being adopted. And 5 students were hosted by Barbadian families to spend Christmas Day because they couldn't return to their home countries. So I just wish to conclude by just stating how I have found it actually quite uplifting to witness how this campus community has responded to the humanitarian emergency that happened last year. And the students were very much to the fore in this. Within the very short order, we had collected 15 barrels of food and goods and 40 cases of water. And in collaboration with the Open Campus, half of this was distributed through the Open Campus in Dominica. The other half was funneled into the general Dominica relief effort. And again, with the Barbados Coast Guard being instrumental in all of this and distributed in 3 communities. On that note, again, wanting to commend the campus for its agile and heartfelt response to this emergency. That concludes my report.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Chair. Reporting from the Faculty of Social Sciences for academic year 2016-17. It was a year in which there was much introspection and planning within the faculty as we sought to envisage and develop an educational model fit for the new realities. The year for us was defined as we considered 2 features. One, which was that the vast majority of our students and a growing number of our faculty and admin staff are in fact millennials and digital natives. That's the world they know. And also that the Caribbean economies and university financing are currently in uncharted waters. And the faculty was done by saying that we need to develop an educational model fit for the new realities. We've been using a model for a long time, but there are these significant shifts within the environment. Under the specific areas of the 2016-17 plan, and this is the last time we're reporting under the 2012-2017 plan with its 5 themes of teaching, learning, and student development, research and innovation, outreach and public service, employee engagement, and internal operating processes. In terms of teaching, learning, and student development, the faculty continued to serve a relatively large number of students, as you saw from the principal's presentation. And I'm going to resist the urge to make a plug for a special dispensation for the Dean of Social Sciences, given that
Resist.
The faculty is fortunate that 35 of its 51 faculty members, or 71%, have completed the certificate in university teaching and learning. Hence, the vast majority of our staff are not only content experts, but they are versed in the art of teaching. And we think this is quite reflected in the student satisfaction with our performance. The median student teaching evaluation score for the faculty is 4.03 out of a maximum of 5. And I want to take this moment to congratulate and commend the teaching staff on their continued commitment to student success, despite the large number of courses and the relatively high student-to-staff ratios. In terms of specific initiatives, we had undertaken a major survey of what was affecting student performance, and what we found was that mathematical, quantitative courses really was the major cause of student failure. I think it would be fair to say that math phobia is a fact of life in large parts of social sciences. And within 2016-17, for the first time, we piloted where students were subjected to a diagnostic test for their mathematics competence. And depending on the deficiencies, we had a remedial course in preliminary mathematics. So we are monitoring that to see whether that will do anything, because from where we sit, the single biggest thing we could do to improve student success would be to enhance performance in those mathematical quantitative courses. In an attempt to enhance the appeal of course delivery to millennials and the working population, the faculty continued a trust to offer its courses in a blended format where there's face-to-face and online components. While there's been much progress in this area, there's need for a much more aggressive push. And a mandate has been given for that for the 2017-18 year that all undergrad and graduate courses delivered by full-time faculty to be fully blended, and we have repurposed a staff member on a full-time basis to actually lead that initiative. The year also saw some major strides in our SEED program, Student Entrepreneurship Program. 2 of the winners of the annual business plan competition went on to establish and incorporate new businesses, and that's something we want to see happen on an ongoing basis. Also, SEED also won a major award from the Massey Foundation of $70,000 to help develop us in that initiative.
That's excellent.
In an important development, the Department of Management Studies obtained accreditation from the ACCA, a well-known accounting body, for its programs in accounting and finance. And the newest development in terms of teaching and learning was the launch of a number of short courses available to the general public. These included courses in digital marketing, business analytics, measuring service quality. The enthusiastic response to these offerings has resulted in that initiative being developed into an Institute for Lifelong Learning and Professional Development. And the initial evidence suggests that a structured program around these types of short courses can become a major source of revenue for the campus and university. In terms of research and innovation, the faculty has the heaviest teaching loads on the campus, and meeting the needs of students has tended to dominate the faculty. But we continued our trust to develop a more robust culture of research and publication while not compromising service to our students. This remains a delicate balancing act for the staff. However, we have the view that in an increasingly competitive and crowded higher education market, where courses and course delivery are increasingly becoming commodities, research and innovation must be our critical distinguishing feature, and we remain committed to a robust program. Significantly for us, in 2016-17, the per capita research output for the faculty stood at 0.96, very close to that hurdle of 1, and a significant improvement from the 0.75 when we started measuring this in 2013. Again, our citations indices and I-10 indices continue to increase significantly as our focus on internationally relevant research continues. Sorry. In terms of outreach and public service, again, the faculty is probably best known for our really aggressive program, and I want to highlight an important development was the launch of the Eastern Caribbean Lecture Series as the faculty sought to expand its footprint into this underserved market. The initial lecture in what will be an annual lecture was Invented Nations and Imagined Communities, and presented by Professor Honeychurch in St. Lucia. In terms of employee engagement, the uncertainty in the environment in Barbados and some of the inconveniences related to the challenging university finances can weigh quite heavily on staff morale. And the faculty leadership spent a lot of time engaging staff, trying to find creative ways to foster collegiality, to recognize and reward staff, as we recognize that staff morale is one of the things that can really struggle in periods like this. One of the most significant developments was the development of an internal faculty assessment and promotion template, which sought to bring transparency towards the process of promoting academic and admin staff. There's still a strong perception among staff that promotions are cut in dark rooms, lacking transparency. So I think bringing transparency we saw as a major initiative there. So in conclusion, the faculty aims to be the faculty of choice for Caribbean students. We view this as a critical step to being a faculty of choice for international students. In pursuing this goal, we maintain high standards in teaching, learning, and student development. We increased our research and publications output, and we continue to be a leader in public debate on critical issues. The faculty remains committed to excellence as we seek to produce graduates of competence, compassion, and conscience. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chair. The Faculty of Science and Technology, we are fully aware of our role that we must play in the incorporation of STEM within the region's economic and social development. Much of the last 4 years was spent updating and strengthening our foundation in order to play that role. And last academic year, we started a stronger push into what we see as embedding STEM into the economic development process. We have decided to call that project FST 2048. As a computer scientist, you know I have to have an acronym, but 2048, 30 years into the future, starting from 2018. Under the area of finance, under the old strategic plan, we are looking at these particular areas, the applied sciences and their commercialization. We are also looking at incorporating STEM-based entrepreneurship into the learning environment and the role of the youth in this commercialization project. So long-term objectives under FST 2048 will be the conversion of the applied science output of the faculty to commercialization, that pipeline. We are also looking to increase collaboration with the private sector, look to solve regional and national issues using STEM, as well as focusing on niche areas that fall within global areas of interest. We are definitely increasing revenue opportunities and increasing learning opportunities for students in the area of entrepreneurship or STEM entrepreneurship. So in June of last year, we presented our ideas to members from the private and public sectors, or pitched our ideas to see who would bite. And since then, we have had an increase in the number of internships, increase in the number of sponsorships of competitions, and we are increasing the number of ongoing discussions with projects that will be financed by the private sector. Unfortunately, can't report any just yet, as this ongoing year, but it's looking well. In terms of teaching, learning, and student development, we have definitely pushed to incorporate STEM entrepreneurship into the students' learning experience. We are taking an applied approach as opposed to a theoretical approach. We want our students to get a hands-on experience through a variety of mechanisms. We started so far, including this year, with presentations from the private sector on entrepreneurship. I already mentioned the internships. An increasing number of private sector companies are willing to provide training. I would admit mostly in ICTs, but we're looking at the other areas as well. And also there's an interest to increase the use of our research into solving issues within the private sector. Curriculum-wise, we have also, in the process of, well, we should say we're having a feasibility study and looking into the areas of science communication and science administration. Both areas are vital if you want to embed STEM into your economy. We're trying to determine the needs and demands, and we're hoping that it's high, because they will be very lucrative if all goes well. Moving on to research, in keeping with the applied science theme, we are in the process of developing a new program, PhD level, MPhil level, where we want to enable our science and technology students to participate in a deeper applied research areas, and we're looking at a cross-disciplinary point of view. We are hoping that we can get this done by the start of the next academic year, or at least within it. We started an initiative called FIRE for our postgraduate students. We have to remember that within STEM, or science and technology, postgraduate students are key to the development of the research agenda. And this FIRE initiative is to create a better and ideal learning environment for those students. So, for example, we have increased the number of avenues internally within the faculty to address any matters for the postgraduate students. We started to facilitate the development of peer-led support groups among the students, and so on. And we also streamlined many of our internal processes to make their life a lot easier. In terms of outreach, we continue with our Science for All philosophy. And two points of note from last year: we started or soft launched the Women in Technology Network, whose purpose is to encourage our female students to not just see science and technology as a viable career option, but to encourage them to remain in the field after graduation. We noticed that a number of our students, female students, do not stay in mainly in the technology side of things after graduation, and we will study and try to resolve that issue. But this network of 3 academic staff members, female, and 3 from the private sector, their role is for particular events, I should say, and initiatives to bring in female professionals from private and public sector and the educational sector to act as mentors and teachers, etc. And this has borne some fruit, where we participated in a number of celebrations for Girls and ICT Day, which took place last year, April 27th, and a similar one this year. So what they did, as opposed to holding our own particular event, we sourced female professionals to go to these different events across the island and support those organizations that had their own events. In fact, we are working with IBM and the Rotary Club to host, facilitate a STEM for Girls workshop 3 days next week. And so far that's looking quite well. In terms of students with disabilities, the faculty continues to place a strong emphasis on encouraging students or persons with disabilities who wish to obtain a science technology degree to come. We want to dispel the myth that if you have a disability, whether physical or learning, that you cannot be a scientist or in the area of technology. So we are ramping up our efforts this year. So last year we made a number of presentations at the community level, including one at the Barbados Community College. We had a special faculty board to look at universal design in the area. And this year, we are ramping up even further, because we are starting a campaign to create what we want to call the Digitally Accessible Barbados, starting with a campaign to get our local websites upgraded to be accessible to persons with disabilities. What we don't seem to realize is that if we want STEM to become part of our economy, all persons, regardless of gender, disability, or income, need an environment where they can reach their maximum potential unhindered. And this fits in well with the University of West Indies and Cave Hill view on that matter. In fact, one of our core areas is diversity. Okay. I should also end on that particular topic by stating that we do have a number of leaders, both at the student level and otherwise, who do have learning disabilities, but the stigma attached to it within the Barbados and some parts of the region prevents that information to be wider known. So lastly, but not the least, in terms of employee engagement and development, we continue to include our non-academic staff in the strategic planning exercise, as well as various boards such as faculty boards, so that matters that affect the academic environment for our students can be brought by them in a formal and precise manner. And Chair, I will end at that point.
Thank you. Thank you.
Chair, during the past academic year, the Faculty of Law has focused on several goals, which I will today examine under the framework of the new 2017-22 strategic plan. the faculty engaged in activities under all three pillars of the strategic plan: access, alignment, and agility, but with a greater focus on alignment. In doing so, the faculty increased its international footprint, engaged in different forms of legal activism, and deepened connections with industry and the legal fraternity. In terms of alignment, the faculty engaged in legal activism through the University Rights Advocacy Project, URAP. Under this project, UE received new funding totaling over US $300,000 for advocacy and training work. URAP continued its human rights litigation in two cases, the Orozco case, Belizean case, and the McEwen case in Guyana, and held a regional meeting to encourage pro bono lawyering and social justice. The Caribbean Law Institute Center continued its work on the Canadian $19 million Impact Justice Project, including by generously supporting the faculty's LLM and legislative drafting program. The faculty participated in 4 international moot court competitions and performed admirably in all of them. The faculty's team won the Best Memorial for the State in English and Best Oralist in English at the Inter-American Human Rights Moot Court Competition. The faculty's team won the Best Academic Institution Prize at the Caribbean Court of Justice International Moot Court Competition. And I would ask you to send your positive energy to Trinidad right now because our team is competing in the competition today. The faculty's team competed well for the first time in the William C. Viz International Commercial Arbitration Moot, and as the principal showed visually, the faculty's team was runner-up in the inaugural Caribbean-China International Law Moot Court Competition. Being second of 2 is perhaps not such a huge achievement, although in my view, our team did very, very well and maybe could have taken home the trophy, which we will do, of course, this year. Cave Hill's 2 teams also won the Best Memorial, Best Oralist, and Spirit of the Competition Award in the competition. Now, this was a competition organized by the Faculty of Law in coordination with the China University of Political Science and Law, and I should note to Campus Council that this is the first time the Faculty of Law has ever coordinated an international moot court competition. We have participated in many, but we have never run one before. And it was well received by all involved, including the students, coaches, and judges. And again, this year we will be competing in Beijing, where we're sending 2 teams to represent the Caribbean. In terms of public outreach, the faculty was pleased to host His Excellency Ambassador Nestor Mendez, Assistant Secretary General of the Organization of American States, as part of its guest lecture series. We held 3 seminars: a current developments roundtable on a recent Caribbean Court of Justice decision, a judicial seminar on relations between national courts and regional economic tribunals, and a special seminar on Chinese and Caribbean perspectives on international environmental law. The faculty also held its 16th annual Caribbean Commercial Law Workshop in Miami and showcased 18 academic papers from the Caribbean and Americas and a business leaders panel. The workshop attracted participants from across the region and internationally and made a profit again. In terms of relations with other institutions, the faculty benefited from a number of memoranda of understanding. The Cave Hill campus signed MOUs or letters of intent with the University of Leuphana, Germany, the University of Guyana, China University of Political Science Law, the Barbados Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and the Supreme Court of Barbados. And some of our students did an internship at the Supreme Court last summer. In terms of the second strategic pillar, access, the Faculty of Law worked hard to streamline and expedite its admissions processes. Unfortunately, despite our making a larger number of offers to students for admission than last year, admission numbers fell slightly. In response, this year, we are putting in place mechanisms to try to increase admissions, including mechanisms which align the faculty with the Cave Hills Smart Campus Initiative. We hope that these changes will yield fruit. Nevertheless, I am happy to highlight to the Campus Council that both our undergraduate and graduate student populations continue to come from across the entire region, thus maintaining the strong regional diversity of our student body. Over 52% of our LLB, or undergraduate students, and 74% of our LLM students hailed from outside of Barbados. The faculty, in response, continued to offer its rich regional law curriculum to serve this diverse student body. Academic staff continued their numerous public lectures and other outreach activities, including by presenting 20 papers or lectures at meetings and conferences. Staff also received awards, including Best Applied Research Award, received by Mr. Westman James on behalf of URAP, Most Outstanding Researcher Award, received by Professor Alina Kaczorowska Ireland, and Significant Research Funding Award received by Professor Velma Newton on behalf of the Impact Justice Project. In terms of curriculum renewal, the faculty offered a new LLM course for the first time in the area of public procurement law. This is an exciting new area. Barbados has draft legislation going through Parliament, and CARICOM has just done a model law. And this is an area that will be of key interest to legal practitioners in the near future. We also partnered with the World Intellectual Property Organization, which assisted the faculty in offering 2 LLM courses in the area of intellectual property law. In an effort to improve the quality of student development and reward students, the faculty held 2 Dean's List Awards ceremonies. These ceremonies honored students achieving a semester GPA of 3.60 or above based upon a full course load, and a very large number of students received these Dean's List Awards. In the summer of 2017, the faculty continued its UE Washburn summer program and offered 2 final year comparative law courses. This brought in a number of international students from Washburn University and other affiliated universities. In terms of the last pillar, agility, the faculty was able to attract benefactors and offered 5 bursaries under the Students' Trust Fund law to law students based upon the criteria of academic merit and, importantly, financial need. Finally, I am pleased to advise Campus Council that the faculty endorsed unanimously the renaming of the Law Library to the Keith W. Patchett Law Library in honor of Professor Patchett, the first Dean of the Faculty of Law, for his contributions to the faculty, the Cave Hill campus, Barbados, and the regional system of legal education. In sum, the faculty is moving forward aggressively to implement the UE, campus, and faculty strategic plans. We are working hard in a number of areas, and I look forward to announcing further internationalization initiatives of the faculty, including potentially 2 double degree programs this time next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean Barry.
Thank you, Chair. I report on the Faculty of Medical Sciences activities for academic year 2016-2017. Applications to our flagship MBBS program remain strong. 94 students were admitted to the first year of the MBBS program, and this was an increase over the numbers admitted in the previous years, and the program is fully subscribed. In fact, we have to guard over oversubscription. Family medicine and public health continue to attract fee-paying students to their postgraduate programs. The pass rates for MBBS students remains good. The 5th cohort from the full 5-year program took their exams in the academic year. 69 students took the exams, 63 of them graduating. Internship posts for graduation students remained competitive and in short supply. The Ministry of Health in Trinidad created additional posts to accommodate our graduating Trinidadian students. Some internal operations, the faculty responded to the 2016 CAM HB accreditation visit report by forming cross-campus committees under the overall direction of PVC Cobley to address various matters, including admissions and student numbers, student support and guidance, curriculum governance, the educational programs, student assessment, internship and graduate tracing, and staff promotion, and DM graduate programs. Various documents were produced. These included one on a diversity policy, technical standards for medical students, common policy for staff promotion, and another on admissions criteria for medical students. Accreditation was extended by a year by CAM. NCFMEA recognition, this seems like a long time ago, but it actually occurred in October 2016. This is a National Committee on Foreign Medical Education and Accreditation of the Department of Education in the United States. And they recognize the standards used to accredit the MBBS program of the FMS Cave Hill campus as being equivalent to that used for U.S. medical schools. This recognition enables the faculty to apply to participate in the William D. Ford Federal Direct Loan Program. This would allow U.S. students to be eligible for federal loans to study medicine at Cave Hill. And the principals already mentioned in detail our visits to the University of Miami, which will help with us internationalizing and increasing access and working to make the NCFMEA recognition operationalized and useful for us. and the University of Ghana visit was also mentioned. During the beginning of that academic year, we were fortunate to be able to fill the post of Director of Medical Education, and one of the projects worked on by the new director and other staff was to develop and improve student academic advising. A workshop on academic advising and mentorship was held in June 2017. 40 persons, including academic and ATS staff and student representatives attended. This workshop was in preparation for rollout of an enhanced advising program in this academic year, 2017-2018 academic year. Plans were also being made to create a personal development portfolio, to make a personal development portfolio part of this advising process. This portfolio will be a structured process undertaken by a student to reflect upon their own learning, performance, and achievement, and to plan for their personal educational and career development. To become a reflective medical practitioner, students need to not only to acquire knowledge and skills to undertake complex tasks, but also to be able to observe and evaluate their own behavior, be appropriately critical, recognize their own shortcomings, and use their observations as the basis for their continuing education development. The portfolio will therefore be a reflective account of any activity and has two parts, a description of the activity and reflection. Other students' matters of note, we have improved facilities, which include a kitchenette and chairs in the foyer of the Henry Fraser Lecture Theatre. Year 3 MBBS students rotated through the Bayview Hospital under the MOU signed with the hospital in July 2016, and GPA was used to determine the class of MBBS degree. Also of note, the pinning ceremony for MBBS students, this is when they move from preclinical to clinical, was held in October 2016 at the Accra Beach Hotel. This was the first one to be held off campus and was attended by about 300 people, including numerous parents from Barbados, Trinidad, the Bahamas, and St. Lucia. This ceremony is organized and funded by the students. And it should be also noted that the majority of our students are from outside of Barbados, from other Caribbean islands, mainly Trinidad and Tobago and the Bahamas, but also from numerous other islands. Staff development, including the workshop I mentioned, but we also held an orientation program for our numerous associate lecturers at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital. It was well attended. 2 faculty members completed the Certificate of University Teaching and Learning. 1 staff member, Dr. Kim Quimby, completed a PhD in Immunology, and another, Dr. Heather Harewood, the Doctor of Public Health, with high commendation. Research and innovation. The Eastern Caribbean Health Outcomes Network, ECHORN Group, at the Cave Hill FMS, received a sub-award from the Yale Transdisciplinary Collaborative Center for Health Disparities Research. This is a U54 NIH grant estimated at US $507,000 over 5 years. This grant will allow Wave 2 of the ECHORN cohort study on chronic disease, as well as various precision medicine sub-projects to commence. There were 3 refereed book chapters published and over 20 publications in peer-reviewed journals from FMS alone, and numerous other publications from the Chronic Disease Research Center, George Allen Chronic Disease Research Center. Outreach continued. During the Campus Research Week, several booths were hosted in Jubilee Gardens, Bridgetown, on the open day in October. Booths included those carrying out blood pressure checks, glucose testing, glaucoma checks, dietary advice. 90 members of the public had their blood glucose checked during the event. CME conferences continue. We continue to partner with BAMP, and in the November CME, 174 persons attended, over 154 of those paid. In May 2017, 170 persons attended. Online registration and online payments has helped people register and attend these conferences, especially persons coming from overseas. And we've had several persons come from overseas to attend our conferences. We also continue with the delivery of our public lectures during the year. So Faculty of Medical Sciences has continued strongly with its activities during the last academic year. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean Adams.
Thank you, Chair. I'm reporting for the first time from the Faculty of Humanities and Education, and I may be last, but I will also be brief.
For much of the year, the faculty was preoccupied with finalising the new 2017 to 2022 strategic plan, with quite a lot of special meetings and a retreat organised to rationalise how to align our activities with the plan. To this end, Management Committee put together a faculty SWOT analysis for academic boards, strengths, weaknesses, etc. The faculty was also engaged with preparations for Barbados Accreditation Council's mid-cycle review of Cave Hill campus. The resultant self-evaluation report, drawing extensively on work at the faculty level, was deemed, as the principal indicated, reflective and analytical, addressing the various challenges faced by the campus, and was of considerable assistance to the team in conducting its favourable evaluation. The faculty continued attempts to diversify and increase contribution from alternate sources, including income-generating activities, such as the Cave Hill Translation Bureau, to reduce its reliance on government funding. The Department of Language, Linguistics and Literature held its first ever Income Generation Incubator, a brainstorming and consultation session with the Business Development Officer, and consequently launched a new income-generating initiative which will pilot foreign language classes for corporations and institutions and short subject-specific courses and workshops for a new summer institute in 2018. The School of Education entered the second year of collaborations and funding from the OECS and UNICEF to conduct research and offer workshops in education in the Eastern Caribbean, especially the Out of School Children Initiative, the publication of which was launched last year. ATS staff underwent the annual training workshop in web maintenance, which was of particular benefit to new web editors, and academic staff attended a variety of organised courses, workshops, and online engagements to keep abreast of developments in teaching and learning technologies. Several members completed the Certificate in Undergraduate Teaching and Learning, and many more participated in the Postgraduate Supervisors Training course, as well as an online web conferencing introduction to Blackboard Collaborate. A very important cultural exchange was organised between the faculty and the University of Johannesburg. A delegation from Johannesburg visited Cave Hill in November 2016, and Cave Hill staff and students travelled to South Africa in January 2017. An exchange programme was relaunched between Codrington College and Ripon College at the University of Oxford, with a Codrington student spending 3 months in Oxford. Over at EBCCI, films by students and staff were nominated at the BFVA Film Awards. We've done quite a few curricular reviews during that year, including the MA in History to include new digital communication skills, as well as documentary production, images and sound heritage preservation, something that we're working towards in our thrust to increase focus on the digital humanities. We also designed a minor in creative writing, which is a key step towards introducing a Masters of Fine Arts in Creative Writing at Cave Hill next year. And a plug here for the place of Caribbean Lit in Caribbean culture. When you think of the Booker Prize winner, the Nobel Prize winners, the Forward Prize winners, and the Wyndham Campbell Prize winners just announced this week, and that latter prize is something like over US $150,000. All of these are really putting our writers on the map, on the global map. We also introduced, as the principal mentioned, a minor in Chinese in collaboration between Modern Languages and the Confucius Institute, and a revamped minor in Spanish. New BA programs in linguistics, the B.Ed Early Childhood Education, new courses in Latin American history were all introduced during that year. The annual Cave Hill Philosophy Symposium featured keynote speaker Professor Paget Henry of Brown University, and 2 other major international conferences were hosted by the Department of Language, Linguistics and Literature. The 19th Annual Eastern Caribbean Islands in Between Conference and the Dictionary Society of North America's 21st Annual Conference, the first ever to be held outside of North America. The second Translating Creolization Symposium took place, and EBCCI hosted the annual conference of the African Theatre Association. Vice-Chancellor Professor Hilary Beckles, as the principal mentioned, delivered the annual George Lamming Lecture, while the yearly Kamau Brathwaite Lecture in Cultural Studies featured UCLA Professor Robin Kelly speaking on the fascinating subject of Trumpism and the Crisis of Black America. The School of Education held an autism awareness lecture in collaboration with the Ministry of Education, Science, Technology and Innovation. Over 140 teachers, doctors, parents and students attended. The second Francophonie Day brought hundreds of secondary school students to campus for a day of activities, and the EBCCI summer program, catering to young people between 11 and 17, began in July. Staff and students organized activities to celebrate the 50th anniversary of Barbados' independence, including an outstanding lecture series. And I want to close by paying special tribute to our students from Barbados, from Montserrat, from Trinidad and Tobago, from Grenada, from St. Vincent, from St. Lucia, Belize, and that's just one class I taught. These are among some of the most brilliant, passionate and committed young people who have risen to the challenges faced by the faculty, and they are numerous, and supported our efforts every step of the way. They are the evidence of what Minister Jones referred to in the minutes of the last Campus Council meeting a year ago as the humanizing values that our disciplines contribute to Caribbean society. We don't, I think, have to worry too much about our students' morale, and we are so proud of them. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean O'Callaghan. I believe the principal intends to wrap up her presentation, but as she prepares to do that, I would just like to mention that under research and publications for 2016 and 2017, just 2017, I would like to note that paper 1B has been laid and is for noting.
First thing I would like to say is that this time next year we will have a sixth dean of the Faculty of Sport being part of the Committee of Deans who will present a report. We were covering the last academic year, and the Faculty of Sport came into being at the beginning of the Faculty of Sport is not yet part of this. But colleagues, Chair, Vice Chancellor, and members of Council, you've heard from me and my senior management team, and I think that collectively we have demonstrated how we have been repositioning the Caveville campus to move beyond adversity, even as we aggressively target the AAA goals of agility, alignment, and access. Not in that order, but those are the AAA goals. And you see before you here persons representing the diversity of the Caveville campus, the diversity of the student body. As Dean O'Callaghan stated in her concluding remarks, the humanizing aspects not only of the Faculty of Humanities and Education, but of the entire Caveville campus. I like to see them as the bedrock of all that we do. Our students are at the center. The Caveville campus, the student leadership, the leadership at the level of senior management, we are dedicated to revitalizing Barbadian and Caribbean development. We are using internationalization and the Smart Campus Initiative as the primary vehicles to pursue the goals of the plan. We have undertaken the necessary internal reorganizations. We have introduced efficiencies, and we have taken steps to predispose the campus to respond more nimbly to our external environment. We are dedicated to expanding access, transforming the skilled labor force, and growing applied research and innovation to advance Caribbean countries. We are working towards greater financial self-sufficiency. We face operational risks and are working with the Barbados government towards settling the outstanding debt. We enjoy cordial, collegial relations with the Ministry of Education. My management team and I remain unswervingly dedicated to the UWI mission and mandate of providing a first-class range of educational goods and services to our citizens of Barbados and the wider Caribbean and internationally. Vice Chancellor and members of Council, and of course our internet audience, I thank you.
I would like to thank the Principal for her thorough and stimulating report, and now invite our Vice Chancellor to make his comments and add to any thoughts that he may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairman, Honourable Minister, Principal, all of my colleague principals and PVC's administrators. Very good morning to all members of Council. This is all very exciting stuff for me. First of all, allow me to say how wonderful it is to be back in this room.
Welcome.
There are very few people in the world who have jobs where they are asked to look back. Because I consulted with my theological expert here, Dr. Longsworth, who told me that it was Lot's wife and not Lot who looked back and paid the price. And she went on to say that, of course, it's because women have an affinity for rebellion. But I think it has. But it is good for me to be here to look back. I think that the Principal has demonstrated a fundamental historical truth in our time. As an historian, we all know that women have always appeared more resilient in hostile ecologies and have had a better performance in environments that are not supportive. We know this to be true, and when we heard about the 40% collapse of Cave Hill's student population, arguably its darkest hour in its history, it is wonderful that in this dark moment, therefore, we should have a woman at the helm. And I am speaking specifically of the Cave Hill campus and not the political discourse in the country. I'm speaking entirely about, I'm speaking about the blackbirds. I'm speaking about the blackbirds because when the fact that the Cave Hill blackbirds have taken to the waves, when your birds have taken to the sea, it's a sign that exciting things and innovative things are happening. So Cave Hill has demonstrated, as we have heard in this report, resilience, innovativeness, and optimism in the future. There are very few institutions that could have survived what Cave Hill has survived. Very few. Morale would have collapsed. There would have been a flight of your finest resources. There would be student despair and a sense of hopelessness could have infected the environment. And this has not happened at Cave Hill because of the tremendous leadership of the campus, the principal, her team, the student leaders themselves, the chairman keeping a close eye on proceedings. It is really a phenomenal experience. And I would wish to say to Justin Robinson as Dean that this is a subject that ought to be studied as a case example. This is a case study because I can tell you that it's a best case scenario on how not to give up. And I think that that needs to be looked at as an example going forward for other institutions that will be faced with this scenario. Institutions in other developing countries will be faced with this scenario. And I think Cave Hill should be written up as a best case example on how best to go forward out of the difficulty. And Principal, I think you should take a bow for that. It is very important. Emerging out of that dark space with a revisioning of the campus's trajectory. No despair, but a revisioning. Thinking it through, aligning with the strategic plan and extracting from that plan a new roadmap. Chairman, I can say that to date, I believe that the Cave Hill campus's engagement with the strategic plan is worthy of commendation. Not only in terms of the demonstration of the access, alignment, agility, and all of the brochures and the documents here that sends a clear message, but also to all of the activities that we have heard reported from the principal are specifically honed within the context of the strategic plan, and this is a very important development indeed. No university can do well if its centers, campuses, institutions run off and do their own thing. We have a strategic plan that has emerged out of all of our collective intellectual endeavor. It's our roadmap, and here is a campus that is demonstrating that by conforming to the strategic plan, great things can happen. I am excited by the broad framework of the China initiative and all of its dimensions, and for obvious reasons. Cave Hill has gone very deeply, Madam Principal, into this. You have led the way. I have seen you on the screen with the Deputy Premier. Mm-hmm. And next year, I want to see you with the President, because that's the trend. We are going all the way up. And it is going to be perfectly consistent for you to be with the President next year, or indeed the Prime Minister, because we receive a letter from the Prime Minister of China 3 weeks ago informing the University of the West Indies that they have given permission for UWI to establish a campus in China. And we are the only university in the world that has been given this special treatment to come to China with the support of the government of China and to establish a University of the West Indies there in conjunction with Jiangsu University in the Nanjing province. This is a major development indeed, and it will rest on all of the excellent work done here at Cave Hill in the multiple dimensions of engagement. Then there's also the Japanese initiative, which is equally important. We are all working on this. We're going off to Japan in about 3 weeks' time to help to take these conversations even further. Now, where is all of this going? The campus recognizes that its primary remit is to serve the economic and social transformation of its contributing countries. It is a Caribbean campus, and outside of the open campus, of the 3 landed campuses, it is the most Caribbean in terms of its enrollment, and that is one of its specific features that we have to recognize. But in the context of its immediate domestic location, driving economic transformation is important. Barbados and the OECS, that immediate hinterland, promoting economic growth. This is our biggest challenge at the moment. All universities are participating in all of the challenges facing their societies. But I would argue that the #1 priority for our university at this moment is to be seen with its sleeves rolled up, pushing economic activity, material development, economic growth. We need to be not only seen to be doing it, but we need to be recognized as being a critical partner in the search for economic growth and transformation. While we speak of economic growth and transformation, we also speak about social justice, because you cannot speak about economic growth without speaking about social justice. The two must be spoken about simultaneously. Unfortunately, we had a circumstance in Trinidad and Tobago where our economy there was growing by 5–6% per year for 12 years. And at the end of that process, poverty had increased. The indices of poverty and inequality had increased despite 12 years of economic growth. That is not acceptable. Our task is to promote economic growth, and in so doing, ensuring the just and equitable distribution of that surplus, so that all sectors of the society are included in the benefits of economic activity. And the principal's analysis is clear. The smart campus concept, focusing upon this age of innovation. Innovation, knowledge, are going to be the drivers of economic growth. All the big companies in the world today are not companies in iron and coal and steel and oil anymore. They are the knowledge companies, all of them. The Amazons and all of these big corporations are the information corporations. These are the big mega corporations of the world today, those that are dealing with information, with data, with knowledge. And it's important for us to have that alignment built into our plan, thus the smart campus. We want to ensure that the resources made available to the university are focused around these objectives. The Bridgetown, Warrens, UWI triangle is clearly an environment that the campus intends to mind. And now that Sagicor has made their building available to the university in Bridgetown, and the Chinese are now at work in building the first innovation and technology park in the Eastern Caribbean in that building, and we are told that the construction will be completed by July. What KPhil will then have available to it is the first technology park, science and technology innovation park in the Eastern Caribbean, if not in the sub-region. That will help the campus to push even more aggressively the smart campus concept and to show where value added will be driven. And this will connect, of course, to the resources that she is pursuing in respect of the modernization of the Faculty of Science and Technology, the Science and Technology Initiative, which is at the center of her report. And the very fact that all of this is being carried live on UWITV across the world is part of the Smart Campus, Smart University concept. Now the whole world can sit and hear what we are doing, see us, and participate in the activities. UWITV is taking this live all across the world, well, I should say the Western world, from Toronto, Montreal, New York, London, and all across the Caribbean, live. So currently we probably have about 400 million people who are watching the work of our university. And so it is important then for KPhil to win the debate. A debate that took place in the country over the last 5 years or so, that the campus and university has been more of a burden than the center of business. There can be no economic transformation in Barbados without the centrality of the KPhil campus. None. Anyone who imagines that Barbados can be transformed economically or socially without centering the KPhil campus, as it has always done, without locating the University of the West Indies at the center of all paradigms. They are dreaming. They are asleep and dreaming. This university has performed this role from the very beginning. This is its destiny, and this campus and this university must be returned to the center stage of economic growth and social transformation. UWI is in business, has always been in business to build this country, to build the Eastern Caribbean, and it is important for Cave Hill's academics and all the other scholars to win this debate. Do not be marginalized. Do not fall prey to half-baked ideas. Do not be intimidated. Stand your ground, because our children's future is at stake. This also applies to all of our colleagues across the OECS. Cave Hill is here for you. The principal has made this point clear. Maybe 20% of our students are from the OECS. Some of our finest scholars and researchers have come from the OECS. Cave Hill is OECS. The fact that the dean has been able to deliver lecture series across the Eastern Caribbean is consistent with what we have always done. I recall 30 years ago, we used to do lecture series all across the Eastern Caribbean. You would give the lecture in Bridgetown on the Monday, St. Vincent on the Tuesday, St. Lucia on the Wednesday, and we would put you on LIAT and deliver these lectures right across the Caribbean. That's what we used to do, because we did not draw a line between Barbados and the OECS. It was one environment. And the very fact that our principal has straddled these two worlds is proof of the pudding. That she has straddled these two worlds. This is the world that we believe in. And so, Principal, Chairman, I wish to congratulate the principal and her team for an excellent year of performance. I wish to thank you, Chair, for your leadership. And I wish to thank all Cave Hill colleagues for their incredible loyalty to the University of the West Indies. You stood your ground, you dug in, and you are rebuilding your academy. Congratulations and enough respect. Thank you.
Vice Chancellor, I could summarize my sort of my feeling about your report by just using the word inspirational, as usual. So thank you very much.
Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed this program. Remember, you can watch this and all our programs on our website, www.uitv.org, available anytime, anywhere, and on any device. Also, join the conversation on social media by visiting our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pages.